Hello and welcome back to the Formula 1 chat. Today we're going to be talking about Formula 1 and whether they're prioritising the spectacle over the sport. This is a topic that has been discussed a lot since Abu Dhabi 2021 and the absolute mess that we saw in the final few laps there, and it keeps rearing its ugly head time and time again throughout last season and now most recently at the Australian Grand Prix. So we're going to be discussing whether the spectacle is being prioritised, whether that's a negative for Formula 1 and whether catering to Netflix fans is really a bad idea. But yeah, shall we start then with Australia? Because a lot of people are quite upset. Well, not upset, but a lot of people are worried that F1 may be prioritising the spectacle following what most people see as a bit of a manipulation to get a dramatic event right at the end of the race. It's the same sort of thing we saw in Abu Dhabi in 2021. But in this case, obviously, Kevin Magnussen crashes, safety car is pulled out quite quickly. Rather than just letting them end the race on the safety car, they get a one-lap shootout, exactly what F1... Well, sorry, didn't they red flag it?
Yeah, red flag.
Yeah, they red flagged it, yeah. So if they safety card, they did safety car initially. If they leave the safety car just to go round, there we go. Everyone gets the points they deserve. Instead, Formula 1 decided to red flag it, which I don't think was justified in that situation.
No,
But, you get a similar sort of thing with injury time in football, or a similar sort of thing in basketball, where you get these sort of, at the end, just in the nick of time results, where people get big results right at the end of games. But is that needed in Formula 1? It's an interesting thought, because that red flag was clearly not merited by the incident, and it only resulted in complete carnage. Now, a lot, as much as people are going, it's harsh on drivers like the Alpines who lost out on points, and harsh on drivers who gained in that situation, that they then get that taken away from them. So it doesn't work either way. Imagine there'd been a change for the lead. The controversy we'd now have if Lewis Hamilton won that race would be insane, because there'd be Lewis Hamilton fans, rightfully so, thinking we should win this, we should have a win here. And then there'd be Max Verstappen fans, rightly so, fuming because he gets his win taken away by an artificial situation. So it would have been a really... obviously we don't really want to see crazy situations all the time. We want to see authentic racing, but that would have been quite the situation had that happened. It didn't though, and obviously, fortunately it was only really a couple of drivers that lost out, and it's just a really confusing situation, all coming from a red flag that wasn't merited.
Yeah, and I think the thing with football and other sports is obviously when they add on time, or they extend the time of the game or whatever it is, it's usually justified. Like, so take football for example, they're not going to add on 9 minutes at the end instead of 3 for a better spectacle. Maybe we saw that at the World Cup, but they said that's time management. But at football, you very rarely see a number higher than 5.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. Even 5 minutes sometimes, you just add on an extra minute or two, because if you get that late goal, the drama it creates.
But I think we only see a number bigger than 5. If there's an injury.
I think the difference is though, obviously, in football or in basketball, the amount of injury time is decided by the on-field referee.
Yeah.
Now, Formula 1 doesn't have a bloke stood out on the track making decisions, so they could quite easily have someone we don't know about calling the shots. Yeah. In terms of going, we need to have increased extra time.
James Corden, because he likes calling shots in the sport.
He does. I don't know why that tangent's been taken, but yes, he does indeed. But yeah, I just found it really bizarre.
The thing that I think annoys me most is that 2 years ago we finished this race under safety car.
Yeah, there's a weird precedent being set, and it's not even Abu Dhabi wasn't the catalyst. It was actually the Azerbaijan Grand Prix of 2021, where obviously we saw Max Verstappen, late race safety car. Yeah. They could have dealt with that under safety car, but they pull out the red flag due to debris on the track. This creates their one lap shootout that they wanted, and Lewis Hamilton going off the road.
It's Lewis Hamilton who loses.
Sergio Perez getting his win, a mental podium, loads of drivers spinning around. It was quite the event, and since then they seem to keep prioritising the spectacle. Obviously, this goes hand in hand with a certain little television show we've come to know and love, Netflix's Drive to Survive. Do you think this has a direct impact? Do you think that F1 is trying to cater to the new audience, or is it simply a coincidence and actually there's no correlation? that it's just that F1 want to create more intrigue?
They're definitely related, and I think the main teller of that for me is I look at it and go, the F1 fans who have been, I know I haven't watched for too long, but I'll include myself, last few years. For the F1 fans who have watched F1 before Drive to Survive and have been passionate F1 fans for years and years and years, they're the ones that are annoyed by this whole, choosing the spectacle over the sport. The people who joined from Drive to Survive, or the Netflix fans, they don't think they think it's normal. They think, oh my god, we're going to see a one-lap shootout. How cool is that?
Yeah. But my question, a lot of people look at this as a negative, obviously, this whole, treating Formula 1 as a spectacle rather than a sport. Is it a negative? Because as much as, we want to see the drivers compete on a level playing field, it's all, competition. I don't think throwing a late race safety car is really too bad. Obviously you might be annoyed if your driver loses a 10-second advantage they have and end up losing that race, but then another race he might be 10 seconds behind and he gains that advantage and is able to make the... I don't think the artificial situations are necessarily a negative. I think it increases engagement, it increases enjoyment. It's very exciting. Put it this way, as much as it may not be 100% sporting and justified, it is still exciting.
If we look at the three examples we've mentioned, so Azerbaijan last year, the three most recent, Azerbaijan last year, I think that one was more just. Max Verstappen's car was all over the track, there was a tyre off, red flag.
And of course we had
and it's on the
only just dealt with Lance Stroll's incident at that point.
Red flag, that made sense. Abu Dhabi, if the race director had let the lap cars through earlier, and then I think there'd have been less, because it was quite literally, they let the lap cars through and then bang, suddenly we were racing again.
It's the fact it's not even the fact that they did it so quickly, it's that they didn't allow all the lap cars through. It's just the ones between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
If as soon as safety car came out, Michael Massey went, alright, well, we'll send all the lap cars through right now so we can get a lap of racing.
And
that's justified.
And the fact that I think a lot of people agree by the fact they even...
But again...
pulled the safety car in.
But again, for me, it was a forced manoeuvre to, make the spectacle bigger.
Yeah.
And I think Australia this year, the red flag was forced to make the spectacle bigger. We could have finished under safety.
But that's the thing, though, isn't it? Because as much as, we saw so much complaint, so much anger at the FIA after that event, no one stopped watching. In fact, many people have started watching. So it was only positive for the FIA. They don't care if you call Michael Massey something that isn't very polite. They're not all that arse. Michael Massey, the poor bloke, he might feel bad about it because your death threats aren't that great. But at the end of the day, for the FIA, that was sensational for them because it's only done positive. I think Liberty Media would be buzzing.
You look at it from a commercial point of view and a kind of overall point of view. Brilliant for the sport. It's brought in loads of all these new spectacles that keep getting created. Brilliant. Brilliant for the sport. Bringing in loads and loads of new fans. Really upping the support and interest in Formula 1. But if you look at the human side of things, obviously you talk about Michael Massey there, but even people like Max Verstappen has openly come out and said he doesn't want to be involved in Drive to Survive.
Yeah, and he obviously reversed that decision. He's on the most recent edition of the show, but there's a weird debate.
Why should we shove the drivers in front of a camera and interview them when they don't want to be there just because we want a Netflix special that's going to bring new fans in?
I mean, I think Drive to Survive and the parasocial relationships between drivers and fans now, because obviously that is becoming more of a thing. The drivers are less of we support the guy in the car, and they're becoming more personable, more personalities. I think people like Lando Norris coming through in recent years. Obviously he streams live on Twitch, as does Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc has before, Alex Albon, George Russell. People like drivers now for their personalities, not necessarily for how they are on the racing track.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
That's why people like George Russell. Because if you just looked at his driving ability, you probably wouldn't like him.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a fan of him in general, but
I think that's all right. But there would be, if it does, there will be an odd instance where it probably doesn't really make any sense. Everyone loves someone that is just completely rubbish or keeps punting people off. There could be.
Yeah.
a nice person.
But I don't know.
It's a tough
I don't think
debate.
there's anyone who's like a stand-up member of society that then goes onto a racetrack and boots everyone into Kingdom Come. That just doesn't happen, does it? So, I don't think that's all that likely. But I think I feel for the drivers in a sense, because when you were coming through in Formula One, you weren't imagining that you'd be this much of a celebrity. F1 drivers back in the day, of course, they were worshipped by fans of Formula One.
They just want to drive.
But more and more now, I think athletes in general are becoming a spectacle. They're celebrities as much as
because realistically, they just want to play. They just want to do the sport they love.
They're competitors.
Yeah. Usain Bolt.
They're not
care.
Instagram influencers.
Usain Bolt doesn't. He wants the world record. He doesn't want to be filmed on the BBC and then interviewed after. He just wants to get the world record.
Mo Farah, although he does love that
he does.
bloody Quorn thing, whatever it is.
But just he just wants to win the gold medal and take his money and go home. They don't want to be on TV. The money is just added bonus.
I think we've it's got on a tangent from a sport as a spectacle, but
I do think I think spectacle has been favoured by the FIA recently.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the incidents. Obviously, we've seen a lot of red flags and safety cars thrown for very dubious incidents, but I don't necessarily think that's a negative. I think obviously they can always use the blanket of safety. Yeah. But I think it is obviously spectacle, and if it does keep the drivers as safe as possible while also providing the spectators with a potentially artificial but still very exciting.
I think there's 2 points for me from the FIA's point of view. Is one, that you can't please everyone. There's always someone that's going to say, "Oh, that shouldn't have been a red flag," or "That shouldn't have been a safety car." But realistically, that's probably because you've got a biased opinion and you're annoyed that your driver didn't benefit from it. Secondly,
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think you still see fans aggrieved if there's a safety car that's benefit them, but it's artificial.
Yeah, but you can't please. And I think the second one for me is obviously we've seen a couple this year where the FIA, on the FIA screen it's flagged up that something's on track or that something shouldn't be there, when actually the kind of situation isn't as bad as. Is it made?
I mean, we saw the same. I mean, Lance Stroll. Yeah, I think that's what you're referring to there in Saudi Arabia. The safety car was pulled out because the screen showed him as stopped on track when actually he'd pulled over in a safe area. Equally, that safety car didn't really. No. I mean, it helped Max Verstappen push through the order quicker, arguably, but it had very little impact on the racing as a whole. But it was a situation that bunched that grid up together, and it did create a moment where didn't Fernando Alonso overtake Sergio Perez?
I can't remember now. But I think
I'm making that up.
At this moment in time, I don't mind it, because when you look at Australia, we look at the examples, people benefited from it, but people also, what's the word? They didn't take an advantage from it. So that's all right at the moment, because that's kind of that's part and parcel. Sometimes it might go your way, sometimes not. But if we do get to the point where choosing the spectacle over the sport becomes that it is ridiculous, like people are cost races. And
exactly,
like
how far is too far? We look at Abu Dhabi. Was that too far? We look at Australia. Did it go too far there, or is that just the perfect amount of?
I guess
spectacle.
The final argument is also. So you look at Abu Dhabi. I'm not trying to say this is true, but did Michael Massey maybe he wasn't thinking about the spectacle? Maybe he just wanted to give both drivers an equal chance of winning the race.
Yeah,
or, you could look at that. Australia,
because even from a sporting perspective, a one-lap shootout's very exciting.
It is
to see the two competitors who have been the greatest this season fight it out over one lap for the championship.
Again, I'm not defending Michael Massey, but if Lewis Hamilton pitted for softs, would he have been able to hold off Max Verstappen?
But there's no telling that the safety car would.
That was a long time ago. Let's stop dwelling on it.
Yeah,
it happened. Not going to happen ever again, probably. That was very rare. I think that's the thing. I think now we need to look back rather than be annoyed by it or question it. We can enjoy it. Think what a spectacle it was.
Fair enough. But yeah. So, do you think that Formula One is going too far in the direction of it being a spectacle and ignoring the fact that it is actually still a sport?
I think right now it's fine. I think right now it is very, it is focused on the sport enough. But I do feel like the trajectory is heading in a direction where we favour the spectacle, and I don't like that.
I agree with that notion. I don't think artificial situations are necessarily a negative. I think they create very interesting scenarios, but if it comes, at the cost of drivers who have competed and spent a lot of money to get to Formula 1. It's not cheap to be a Formula 1 driver.
No,
if you put all that in and you get your championship, could be cost by something as simple as an artificial safety car. So there is definitely a debate to be had there. I'm sure you guys have a lot of thoughts on it, so make sure to get involved in the comments down below. Keep the conversation going. We love to hear from you guys on your thoughts about anything Formula 1, so even if it's not related to this video, get involved down there. And if you've got any ideas for future videos, stick them in the comments below. We're always looking for you guys to supply ideas. If there's anything you want to see a video on, put it in the comments and we'll make sure to get round to it if we think it's a good video. If it's horrific, we probably won't do it. If it's a good video, I'm sure it will be. We'll do it at some point. But yeah, that's all for today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new around here. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Very ambitious. Never know if you're going to hit it. But yeah, every subscriber means so much to us on our YouTube journey. But yeah, that is all from us today. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.